Welcome to The Point, a podcast by Apex Benefits and dedicated to employee benefits thought leadership. You can find more episodes for free on iTunes by searching The Point or Apex Benefits. Please rate, review, and subscribe to be the first to know about what we have in store for you. To learn more about Apex Benefits, please visit our website at www.apexbg.com or find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter. Let's get to the point together.
Welcome back to The Point Fort Wayne. I'm Kassee Lamm with Apex Benefits, and today I'm so excited to be recording with Jere Johnson. Jere, would you go ahead and just introduce yourself?
Yeah, Jere Johnson. I work at Indiana Wesleyan University. I also am a co-founder of First Friday's Leadership Forum here in Fort Wayne. What else do you want to know?
Well, I'm sure we'll get into a lot more. That's
Fantastic.
A good start. But my first question for you is, can you elaborate a little bit on your role here at Indiana Wesleyan in Fort Wayne?
Yeah, I am called a corporate recruiter. Basically, I travel. Well, I used to be able to travel before the virus hit. But I travel to companies, hospitals, community colleges, recruiting people that want to go back to school.
Awesome. That's probably been put to a little bit of a halt right now. But
It has been an incredible challenge, but we've had people enroll.
Okay.
We had people still asking about our program, so we feel blessed in that way.
Awesome. So as your programs evolve and develop through this pandemic, what have you guys done to kind of shift your focus in order to recruit people into Indiana Wesleyan?
Yeah, we've had to do most of everything online, like everybody else, either through Microsoft Teams, Skype, Zoom. I think we all have Zoom fatigue, and it's tough. It's really tough because in trying to reach influencers, that we call it, the different companies, trying to connect with them so they can give us the information we need from their company, and we can give our information to them. And so there's many times via Zoom or any email or any way, they don't have to communicate with us. But when we get to travel and see them, they're kind of forced to see us face to face. So that's been the biggest challenge.
Sure. And so can you speak a little bit to the fact that there's multiple campuses for Indiana Wesleyan?
Absolutely. Our main campus is in Marion, Indiana. Just a little under 3,000 resident students there. Beautiful campus if you've never been there. Outstanding facilities. We had at least 12 ed centers around the Midwest at one time. I think we're down to about 10. We have them in Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana. We used to have one in Illinois, but that one closed down. But really in some major market areas to help, with the people who are wanting to enroll.
Awesome. Fort Wayne's lucky to have a facility here.
We talked just a minute ago. It's been here since the I think before 1990.
Okay.
And there was a time this building was full of on-site students that was running anywhere between 500 people in and out of this building a week.
Wow.
Now that things have shifted to go online, things have changed quite a bit. And now with COVID, we've moved everybody to online, and so nobody's coming here for classes.
Okay.
Even though this is a great facility to have business meetings and conferencing and things like that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful building. I was saying I've lived here since I was 5, and it's tucked away behind these beautiful trees, and the drive up to the campus is just amazing.
Yeah, I believe that little drive there on Jefferson Boulevard is kind of the hidden gem. There's some wonderful apartments,
Yeah.
a couple of great hotels. The Boy Scouts, I think, are down the road, and Frontier Communications. So it's really kind of a hidden gem.
It is. It's off the beaten path. It's beautiful back here.
It is.
So you mentioned your kind of other role in Fort Wayne is First Fridays. So can you speak a little bit about First Fridays and maybe how the idea came about?
Yeah, in 2017, I had just moved back to the area. I was in Chicagoland for 15 years, and my whole family lives here except one of my older brothers. And one of my older brothers who lives here, his name is Jim, Vice President at Three Rivers Federal Credit Union. And we were at the Global Leadership Summit, and on a Friday afternoon, didn't really want to listen to who was speaking. I'm sure they were great, but we didn't want to listen. We ended up getting a hamburger at the Coliseum and sitting down to talk about leadership. And we had both said that we hadn't lived in the same town since we were both in high school. And we thought it'd be great if we could do something together. So the next week, I went to his office. We met, and he had huge, what I call Post-it notes all over the wall. And I walked in, and I'm like, what are we doing? And he decided that he likes to write things down. And so we started talking about what could we do. And we wanted to have, leadership in a forum type setting where we would bring a speaker in from around the area, and they would add what we call a value added message to the people who would come. So we nailed that down, and then we talked about when would we want to have that. Well, we came to the consensus that Fridays are a great day, more relaxed. And so Jim asked what Friday would work best. And I said, well, maybe they'd remember the first one. So he had already written up their Fridays, and then he wrote first on top of Fridays. And he goes, well, what do we call this thing? And I just pointed at the board, and it stuck. It became First Fridays, and we started in November of 2017, and we've had virtually an event every month, except for we always take off the summer months.
Okay.
July and August.
Awesome. So when you first started, what was your vision for First Fridays? Was it to be what it is now, or was it maybe on a smaller scale? Because you guys are very successful.
Well, it's humbling how well people have engaged with us, but to be quite honest, we wanted somebody to show up to our first meeting. We had John Sampson from the Northeast Regional Partnership ready to go. He got a hold of my brother on, I think, the Wednesday before our very first one, and said, Jim, I don't think I'm going to be able to make it. And so Jim didn't panic. He said, well, John, I'm sure you have a plan. And John sent two of his great gals that worked there, and it all worked out. We had 50 some show up that day, and we've just, by word of mouth and through LinkedIn, and now we have some people helping us with marketing. We've grown to where our last one before COVID was right under 200 people that we were meeting at the Cashman Auditorium at Lutheran.
It's so exciting.
Yeah, it's been really neat.
So who is your typical audience that will attend a First Fridays? I know that's kind of a broad question.
Yeah, I would say anybody who really truly wants to get better as a leader.
Okay.
We have multiple groups that come. We have what I would call the young and hungry leaders like yourself that really want to get after and grow and network and make a difference in their community. We have a lot of those who come. We have a lot of entrepreneurial spirits that come and want to get to know other people and how they're doing things. And then what I would call have the seasoned veterans.
Okay.
That been there and done that, guys and gals, the CEOs of companies that have come and supported what we have done. And what has been really neat for me to watch is to sit back before and after our meetings, is watching these older seasoned leaders talking to these young and hungry leaders and just engaging and networking. And the questions that our audience asks, the people who have come, have been so phenomenal. And people just grow by listening to the questions and then how our speakers answer. So it's happened very organically, but we've been really blessed with just having a multiple of different people come. And it's a free event, and anybody's welcome to come at any time.
Sure. That was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
So I noticed just from participating the same thing that you just said, and I think that's something that we have to touch on. So where else in the world, let alone the United States, do you have access to leaders that are the seasoned veterans, right? Yeah. That are willing to take the time to talk to the young leaders that are going to be the next generation for our community, right? And so I think that is something that really drew me into First Fridays was not only is there a great speaker every time and you have the opportunity to connect and just have those conversations, but you also have access to the leaders within our community. And have you seen those conversations move maybe outside of the room of First Fridays? Have you heard stories about those conversations going forward?
Absolutely. It shouldn't surprise me, but it still surprises me the way people connect and engage at our events. Sometimes we have to move them out of a room because somebody else is coming in, but it has been, for me, it's been really cool to see how that has taken place. We've had many examples of people who've come looking for work.
Okay.
They're thinking, well, maybe I'll come and maybe I'll meet somebody who can connect me to somebody else. That's happened quite often, to where somebody has come and they've met a CEO or they've met a C-suite type of person who has connected them in the community to help find a job. And that always makes us feel good when that happens.
Absolutely.
And my brother and I both, we really love to connect people to other people, and we've surrounded ourselves with people on our board that do the same thing. One of the greatest things about Fort Wayne since I've been back is the leaders do make themselves available and accessible, whether it's lunch, whether it's coffee, which you and I both do not drink.
Right.
But they just make themselves available, and there's a kindness of people, even in the same industry. We had a situation where we had two bankers that were in a conversation, and somebody came up to talk about some sort of loan or some sort of banking question. I literally saw one gentleman from one bank say, hey, you need to talk to this guy because he does a great job in this area. He basically gave away business to somebody else. So that person who got that information, what do you think they're going to do with that? Yes, they're going to appreciate the new guy that he's going to work with, but he's going to remember the other guy. Absolutely. And say, hey, this guy was fantastic, and he pointed me in the right direction. So I've just seen so many win-win situations because of First Fridays that people have been able to network and communicate together.
Sure. The last First Fridays was with Jeannie Zare
and
the MindCap Institute. And that is such a specific thing that she does that I'm not sure I would have known of her or sought her out. And she is so well known in our community. And her and I met and had lunch and just talked about more about her business and her expertise and her background. And that is the type of connection, right, that you wouldn't necessarily expect when you're going to a leadership event. So she spoke, she's so well spoken, she's amazingly talented and so smart. But then, when we're sitting one-on-one and having lunch and having that conversation, it was just so refreshing to be reminded of, this is Fort Wayne, and there are CEOs that will sit down with you for coffee or tea or whatever it may be.
Yeah. And
having lived in other places, I've never had that kind of exposure. And we talk about we want to have 1 million residents by 2030, and I think in order to do that, we always touch on talent attraction and retention, but I think we also have to showcase our leaders, right? We have to showcase that they're willing to take that meeting and have that conversation with you. And have you noticed from your speakers in First Fridays that they wouldn't say the same thing?
Oh, absolutely. Every speaker that we've had for First Fridays, and people ask us all the time, where do you find these people? Where do you get these people? They're probably standing in line with you at your grocery store or at Walmart. They are just, common people who live in Fort Wayne, but they have an incredible gift.
Right.
And we've just been truly blessed by people who, and we've really tried to vet our speakers in a way that we know that it's not going to be they're going to speak and try to do a commercial for their business. Because we always tell our speakers, this is not about promoting what you do.
Right.
if you do a good enough job telling your story of leadership, you're going to do a great job selling what you do down the road. So we've been really, really blessed to have speakers who are humble and who are, hungry to connect with others and are willing and to get out there and to do that. And so we've just had a wide variety of diversity of speakers, and they've all been great connectors in our community.
Right. So with COVID being a thing, how have you had to pivot with First Fridays, and how's that been so far?
Well, when I realized COVID became a real thing, I was over in Iowa at a national basketball tournament. Both of my boys are involved with college women's basketball teams at different levels, and we were all at the same tournament and realized that this is a real thing. And so driving home with with my oldest son, I realized that we had to make some quick changes. And being a former basketball coach myself, and very fond of the word pivot as a basketball coach, we had to do that quickly. We had just finished our March session with the Uplink gals, Brittany and Michelle, and we knew to capture our audience, we're going to have to go virtually. And so we had a thing that we had done, through LinkedIn called Lunch with a Leader. We would take a leader out to lunch, tell their story a little bit, connect them, via LinkedIn, and go from there. So we turned that into our April sessions, and we had 4 sessions every Wednesday at lunchtime, so that we'd have lunch with a leader, and just great, powerful messages. We learned quickly that we had to narrow it down. People really, if you're sitting in the room, an hour goes by fast.
Oh, yeah.
If you're sitting looking at your computer, 30 minutes seems like an eternity. And so we realized we had to scale it back, 30 minutes of sharing, open it up for questions, and most of those sessions went 45, 50 minutes. But we were able to do that in the month of April. We switched to an Engage conference where we had already had 4 speakers lined up, so that fit our May sessions. But even in between then, we decided that we were going to do something to even reach more leaders in the community at a greater level. And we started what was called High Five, where we asked 5 leadership questions to a leader. My goal was to keep it at 5 minutes, but my 2 hosts are very talkative, Rob and Cam. Most of them were between 10 and 15 minutes, but those saw so many different views. And so we started counting up our audience. We still reached hundreds and hundreds of people during that time. So again, we made that decision to pivot, to go online, and we really haven't looked back, and we're still doing a hybrid of both to this day.
Right. And I think it was also really cool to hear the feedback from your event where it was the first hybrid, right? Where, there were people who came in person, social distance, wore their masks, and it was really cool to hear the feedback of those that attended, not only in person but online. And essentially the overwhelming theme was they're just happy you're back.
Yeah, it was so encouraging to have that hybrid where we had 25 people. We're only allowed to have 25 people on site here in our Ed Center, and that's fine.
Yeah.
We want to be respectful during this time of COVID, but the people who came, they all had their own table, like they all had their own chair, very similar to how we're sitting now, and just the conversations that they had, and for some, they hadn't seen each other in person since March.
Right.
And there's a lot of catching up to do, but then there's a lot of new conversations that were had, and it always warms my heart to watch those people connect in a great way. And so we still are trying to figure out how to best connect people online. We'll get to that as we move into November, but we're just happy to be able to still continue.
Right. And keep those conversations going.
Absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about this upcoming First Fridays.
Yeah, every November we try to bring in a military veteran and someone who has served. And we have a young gentleman here from the Fort Wayne area, Nick Dara, I believe is a personal friend of yours.
Yeah, he's also been on our podcast before.
Yeah, Nick is a great guy, works for the Northeast Regional Partnership. He's going to share his journey serving in the military and how that has helped him in the work that he does with Northeast Indiana and some of the initiatives that he has, for and through the military in our area. So I'm super excited to meet with him on the 6th of November. We're full on site, but you can always join us online that day.
Perfect. And we'll include a link within the description of our podcast.
Oh, great.
People can register for
Fantastic.
So this is a very broad question to end on.
Yeah.
But being a leader and being a coach for so long, and obviously being a parent is part of that, what advice would you give to young leaders, not necessarily in general, but here in Fort Wayne, in order to build their success in the future?
Yeah, I think the best advice I would give, and I tell my kids this all the time, is, put yourself out there. If you want to get better and grow, you have to put the work in. As a coach, I could tell you a player who did nothing during the summer as soon as they walked in the gym.
Absolutely.
But the people who put the work into it will benefit in the long run. And I would encourage any young leader to go to events like ours. There are hundreds of great events to go to in the Fort Wayne area, and a lot of them are starting to be face-to-face again. Get connected on LinkedIn. LinkedIn here in Fort Wayne it's a hotbed of wonderful people who would love to connect. Other places and other cities, maybe not so much, but Fort Wayne, wonderful leadership community who will engage with you. And then again, just, make yourself known. But the greatest thing you could do as a young leader is ask good questions and really listen, because you're going to gain a lot of valuable experience for the people you have the opportunity to meet.
I love that. I think we live in such a rushed culture, and what you just said is so important, actually listening when people ask questions and listen to their answer. And the other thing I would add is, when you do listen, how can you apply that personally, right? So it's not just maybe here's what I did or here's what I experienced. It's how can you apply what they've learned previously to where you're going.
Yeah. As a young coach, I learned very quickly from some older coaches that mentored me is there's not a whole lot new, whether it's in the coaching world or business world, but it's how you can take what you have seen that you believe will work for you and put it into practice.
Sure.
And make it your own. You may tweak it in a different way, but make it your own, and be humble, because there's always somebody who's knocking at your behind you, wanting to pass you up, but there's always somebody ahead of you that you can try to reach that level as well. So stay humble in what you do, and look for opportunities to grow and get better every day.
Absolutely. Well, Jere, thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast with me. I'm so excited to be at First Fridays. And like I said, we'll include a link to register for First Fridays, and then a link to your LinkedIn so people can reach out to you if they're ready.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, and be looking for an email from me about you being a speaker for First Fridays in the near future.
I would love to. That would be an honor. That's awesome. Well, thanks again, Jere.
All right, thank you.
You can find more episodes for free on iTunes by searching The Point or Apex Benefits. Please rate, review, and subscribe to be the first to know about what we have in store for you. To learn more about Apex Benefits, please visit our website at www.apexbg.com or find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter. Let's get to